Good morning, boys and girls. All right, let's go. Let's get into more of the one and only Bob. Chapter Clock versus Moon. Julia and I wait by the front door while George says goodbye to Sarah. I think maybe the hardest thing for me about being domesticated, a pet, if you insist, is that I can't control my own schedule. If I had it my way, I'd hang out with Ivan and Ruby all day, every day. Unfortunately, humans love their clocks. Dogs, we use the sky to tell time. Like any sensible creature, sky says it's dawn, time to eat. It's noon, time to eat. It's afternoon, time to eat. It's dusk, time to eat. It's midnight, time to eat. Point is, it's always time to eat. Dogs have a thing for the moon, too, like wolves and coyotes and other of our relatives. No calendars for us. The moon looks like a claw. Moon looks like half a pancake. Moon looks like a tennis ball. Moon looks like a claw again. A chunk of time has passed. But humans, nope, that's not enough. It's not a chunk, it's a month. It's not just dawn, it's 6:32 on Thursday. And oh boy, we better hurry up and go to school or the office or change the baby. But who gives a woof about feeding the poor, starving, sad-eyed, grumbly-tummied dog? After a spell, I got used to the comings and goings of Julia and her mom and dad. But it keeps changing. Julia leaves for school early and is gone most of the day. She returns home excited and energized, good sense mostly. But every now and then, she comes back smelling a little like me after a visit to the dog trainer. Battle, weary, and ready to crawl under the covers. Sarah, who is pretty sick for a while, is feeling fine again. Thank goodness. But she went back to work and she's away all day too. And George, who has a job at Ivan's place, works 5, sometimes 6 days a week. That means it's just me and the guinea pig a lot of the time. I have a doggy door and I go outside to run, but it's not the same as touring the neighborhood with your person. Peeing without a potential audience is like talking to yourself. Sometimes I'm the tiniest bit jealous of Ivan and Ruby. They always have someone to be around, which is crazy, I know. I'm free, and they are not. But there it is. Told ya, not a saint. The shelter. I know our route to Ivan and Ruby's by heart. I can't help tugging a bit, even if I'm not supposed to. It's been a couple days since I've seen my pals, and I need my friend fix, like I need air and water and belly rubs. We don't live that far, down the end of the street around the corner. Good news source there. And a few more blocks. When I walk with Julia, well, okay, I suppose it's like she's walking me, but I beg to differ. There's a place we pass that always makes me jumpy and bummed. It's the animal shelter. And I know it's a good place, a space for pets who do not have a safe home of their own. When I was abandoned on the highway, just a few weeks old, a nice cage with a soft towel in it and a fresh bowl of water, well, would have given just about anything for that. Still, when I walk by and I hear all those desperate barks and meows and squeaks, it just gets to me. Sometimes having a great hearing is a pain. Thing is, I realize I have a home and a gang in there, and the gang in there doesn't. And I try not to think about stuff like that. I mean, it's not like I can do anything about their tough breaks, right? And in fairness, maybe those animals aren't like me. I've always been resilient, hardworking, the hardworking sort. Maybe some of those guys even made their own bad luck. Don't get me wrong. I try to be a nice guy. I do. Try to make what I can the world a better place, sure. Chat with the guinea pigs, lick the strawberry jelly off Julia's hand, do my wagon dance, and when it rants, and when the rents come home and it makes me feel good. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. But like I said before, you gotta look out for numero uno. Guess what? That's why the shelter harshes my mellow. It's just, I'd rather not have to hear those guys every time I walk by. Makes me sad. Makes and reminds me of the bad old days. I knew this guy back when I hung out in the mall with Ivan and Ruby. Nice dog name, Droloris. Basic mutt. Maybe a lab and golden in there somehow. He'd done some hard time in a couple of shelters. One of those dogs, he hadn't seen more than his share of bad stuff in the world you can throw your way. One ear bitten off, scars, a limp. Droolis lives in a backyard. Winter, spring, summer, fall, chained up mostly. Flies on his food, empty bowl of water way too often. Still, he always has a nice word to say when I pass him on my daily rounds, checking the neighborhood trash cans. Once I saw his owner again. That word. Step onto the back porch. Droolis was barking, but he had a good reason. A stranger had just passed by. Barking is what we're supposed to do in that circumstance, right? Maybe he's the UPS guy. Maybe he's a serial killer. I mean, come on, we're not the FBI. So, anyhow, the owner came out, big guy, mean looking guy, and gave Droolis a hard kick with a boot and yelled, "Be quiet, you fool!" and then disappeared. Droolis looked at me kind of embarrassed. We kept talking. A few minutes later, the owner came out again, and he put some towels on a line. Droolis headed over, the tail between his legs, cowering, saying, "I'm sorry, I love you, I'm yours, I'm yours, I'm yours, I'm yours," with his whole dog being. The guy completely ignored him and headed back inside. "He's having a tough time," said Droolis when the guy was gone. "It's not very nice," I said. "Is not my strong point." "No, he loves me, he does. He has a funny way of showing it. Humans," said Droolis, licking a sore on his leg, "you know how they can be." Do I ever. But we gotta stay true. We gotta love him and we gotta forgive him. I thought about that, and I thought about it a lot. "Why though?" I finally asked. "Why do we have to forgive him?" Droolis looked shocked and then confused, as if I just say why cheese tastes good. "It just does." "That's the way it is," he said. "That's what we do, Bob." I started to reply, but I managed to hold my tongue, which is not very easy for me. It's a very long tongue with a mind of its own. There was no point in making Droolis feel worse than he already did. Later that morning, I found a half a turkey sandwich, and I gave the whole thing to him. Well, okay, I had a taste first, but still. Forgiveness. Seems like forgiving humans is one of those things that dogs were all supposed to do, like having zoomies or doing bed boogies. It's written into our canine souls. Well, somehow I didn't get the memo. The one that apparently went out to every other dog on the planet about forgiveness. Why should I forgive humans who tossed me and my siblings right out into the night? When you forgive, you lose your anger. And when you lose your anger, you get weak. And when you're weak, well, you can get hurt all over again. The art of human watching. By the time we reach the park, the sky is definitely in a bad mood. Gray clouds galloping like panic horses. The nervous scent of rain on its way, the kind that makes you antsy in your own skin. When we get near the employee entrance, I hop onto Julia's back like always, and we enter through the special gate where George shows his ID, checks in, and says hi to the staff. Pet dogs are not allowed at the park. Foxes, wolves, jackals, my dog's cousins, well, they are. But in my opinion, even though they're not technically part of my extended family, they're nothing like dogs. Only dogs have perfected the art of human watching. The smartest thing we ever did was to figure out how important the human gaze is. So often, when we follow our owner's eyes, we're rewarded with something amazing. A smelly sock, a glazed donut that's fallen on my smelly sock. We follow every blink, every sidelong glance. We see it whenever it is before humans do, and we understand before they do too. And if there's a glazed donut involved, we eat it before they do. Puppy eyes. It's mid-morning, still pretty early. There aren't many visitors around yet. We've got a meeting in 20, George tells a couple of co-workers, Hank and Sonia, who groan. Just a quick one. We're going over the plans one last time in case there's any flooding. During the last hurricane, a small part of the park flooded, mostly near Reptile Villa. George helped move the cages, and he came home smelling like cotton mouths and copperheads. It was all I could do to not barf. Weather Service just issued a tornado watch, Hank says. I thought we're having a hurricane, Julia says. We are, Gus, but sometimes tornadoes are spawned during hurricanes, George explains. Julia frowns. But a watch means maybe, not for sure, right? Yeah, but I want you to head home, George says, just in case. Please, Dad, just 10 minutes, Julia says. She's using her special voice she reserves for moments when she really wants something from her parents. I guess kids manipulate their moms and dads the same way dogs manipulate humans. I don't know, George begins. I promised Bob. I figure that's my cue to pop my head out and look cute and adorable. So I do. Hey, Bob, says Hank. Sonia reaches over and scratches my ears. I'm pretty popular around the park. I give George my best puppy eyes, and he caves. 10 minutes tops, he says. Meet me back here. Puppy eyes. They work every time. Mr. Oog. Here's how I figure puppy eyes got their start. Cave humans were sitting around a fire, wearing mammoth fur and grunting about how there was nothing on TV because TV hadn't been invented yet, and some wily wolf thought, whew, they got a leftover mammoth meat. Then he probably whimpered and cowered and did a tummy display and looked pathetic enough that Mr. Oog finally tossed him a bone. Soon enough, a zillion years later, voila, man's best friend. After all of that time, there's a thing, like a magnet attraction between dogs and humans. We've studied them for so long that we can read every twitch and sigh. Suppose it was earlier than chasing down mammoths. And I get it. I do. The behind the ear scratch, the food in a fancy bowl, the bed by the fireplace. I gotta admit that Julia's pretty fun to hang out with, and I'm grateful, really I am, that her family took me in. So I don't really need them. You need someone. Eventually they're gonna let you down, and they'll end up feeling like a real doofus. The park. As Julia walks, I sneak peeks out of her backpack like I always do. We pass the Meerkat family poking their heads out of their den holes like the whack-a-mole game that we used to have at Max Mall. I see flashy flamingos with their one-legged balancing act and a terrifying, beautiful tigers. Even their cute cubs give me the little willies. Families, I notice, take a lot of different shapes. Jim and Joe, the penguins, adopted by an abandoned egg, and they are the sweetest doting parents you've ever seen. I see it with humans too at the park. Families of all shapes and sizes and colors and genders, and yep, they all seem to do just fine. We round the corner past Sea Otter Alley, and Oliver and Olivia are floating calmly on their backs, holding each other's paws. It's pretty adorable, I have to admit. But me, I don't need the trouble when it comes to the family. Babies puking, toddlers whining, spouses nagging. Talk about a design flaw. Change. The park's pretty big. Lots of twisty paths and fascinating smells. All of the parts have names. There's the African Aviary, the Outback, Penguin Cove, Lemur Land. It's like puzzle pieces of the world. A little Africa here, a little Asia there. Dogs, you can find us pretty much everywhere. Our territory is Earth, as long as we're hooked up with humans, that is. Along the shady paths, the volunteer guides will answer your questions, and they'll tell you about animals that used to roam one part of the world and another until things changed. Things change. That one thing I have figured out. Don't ever assume that a little patch of planet belongs to you. Times change. Boxes go flying. Inner wolf. On our way, we always stop by the wolf habitat. Julia loves wolves, probably because they remind her of me. You have to look hard, maybe squint a little, but if you try, you can catch a hint of my inner wolf. It's in my eyes mostly. Also, my distinguished profile. I dream I'm a wolf sometimes, and when I wake up, I'm panting and my fur's on alert. And I keep feeling, yeah, like the world couldn't hurt me, but I could hurt the world right back even harder. Like there's a dangerous, hard part of me chained up inside, struggling to go free and just, I don't know, get even. Then I go see what's for breakfast. Kimu. There's a gray wolf at the park who makes a little jittery. Jittery, as if sometimes I worry that he might eat me. His name is Kimu, and we struck up a conversation when a mutual acquaintance of ours, a mockingbird called Mitch, introduced us one day. Like Nutwit, Mitch likes to taunt me because I'm domesticated. Gives me a lot of grief about how free he is, soaring stringless over the whole town. I'm not the only one who's pampered, I said one day. I mean, look at Kimu. He's not exactly running wild. As soon as the words come out of my mouth, I regretted them. And then when I looked at Kimu, I could kill you with my one quick bite expression. I really regretted them. In any case, I said, moving the subject along, I've lived wild. It ain't a picnic for a dog. What's it like? Kimu asked. He moved closer to the edge of his domain. He had a strange odor, intense, scary, and a little bit intoxicating. Well, I'm just a pup, I said, abandoned by the side of the highway. Kimu was listening intently. Must have been tough. All I could think of was food and water. I didn't like the catch in my voice. An owl got me. Those guys are so fierce, Kimu said. Can't hear 'em coming. I know, right? I got a little relaxed. I hate owls, said Mitch. I hate them with a passion. They eat birds, you know. So do wolves, said Kimu, giving Mitch a meaningful look. So, you were wild once? I asked Kimu. Never. Born and raised in captivity. Susie over there, she was. She told us stories that would curl your fur. Honestly, it's nice to have a roof over my head. It's rough out there, man. Really rough. I suppose, said Kimu. I looked at him for the first time and wondered, really, did I have any wolf in me? He was a majestic animal with teeth that could shred a tree trunk. I'm also majestic, but I'm more portable, with teeth that could mangle a pencil with enough time and effort. Hey, Bob, Mitch said, do dogs howl the way wolves do? Of course we do. So let's hear something. A duet, maybe. He fluttered his wings, revealing startled patches of white. Do you know, talk to the animals? They play that on the carousel. Go away, Mitch, said Kimu, with just the right amount of menace in his voice. Come on, just a little howl. Pretend there's a moon. Pretend you're free. Pretend. Kimu growled, and so did I. He was pretty impressive. I spoke in death and deserment, and all kinds of unpleasant bird nightmares. I growled too. It spoke of me being mildly peeved. Still, Mitch got the message. He disappeared, a blur of wings. Actually, I've never howled at the moon, I admitted. Me neither, said Kimu. I feel kind of funny doing it here. Enrichment. We're almost at my favorite spot in the park. The greatest thing for me is the one corner of the gorilla world juts up against the Elephant Odyssey, the area where Ruby lives. A low stone wall separates the two spaces, and there's a moat on the elephant side. The sections connect like two slices of pie. And my secret spot is right in the center, where I can hang out with my crew. Ivan and Ruby both have access to my indoor habitats, which is great when the weather isn't cooperating. Speaking of, look at this crazy girl, Janner. So crazy. The indoor space for gorillas ain't bad. I call it a gorilla villa. It has tons of ropes and hammocks and branches to climb. Humans watch through a thick wall of glass while young gorillas run around like kids at recess. But whenever Julia and I visit, we can almost always find Ivan and Ruby inside. We trudge up a little we trudge up a little rise, though it isn't much of a hill. We live pretty much in a flat part of the world, and from there I can see just about everything: the park, the parking lot, the creek. Far beyond that, every now and then I can even catch a glimpse of the ocean. My secret place is a little hard to get to, right near the keeper's shed, nicely hidden by trees and bushes. Under the big magnolia tree, there's a bench shaped like a gorilla holding out his arms. Julia likes to sit there and draw. Sometimes she does her homework, which smells like frustration with a hint of eraser. When I visit when I visit, Julia props me up on a stone wall that separates Ruby's world from Ivan's. Visitors cannot see me, and the keepers pretend not to see me. If they caught any dog out there, he'd be out in a heartbeat. But Ivan and Ruby and I have made history. I make them happy. I'm what you might call enrichment. At the park, they try to keep the animals engaged with surprises and challenges and changes in their environment. That's what enrichment is all about. The gorillas get watermelon to demolish, the boxes to hide in, and markers for drawing. The elephants get sprinklers and flavored water and elephant sized rubber balls. Not exactly like a day in the real jungle, of course, but the keepers try hard as they can make life very interesting. For Ivan and Ruby, it's the ultimate enrichment. I'm their best pal. Walls and bad guys. Julia takes me out of her backpack and I settle onto the wide stone wall. It's my favorite place on the planet because it means I see Ivan and Ruby. But I also kind of hate it. Walls will do that to you. And there's a picture of Ivan standing on his rock. Ivan, being Ivan, is a mellow guy. Let me make sure I didn't. Oh. Takes the good with the bad and only gets the angry when he really needs to. When I complain about the walls at the park, he says walls keep the animals in, but they also keep the bad guys out. Of course, gorillas don't have a lot of bad guys to deal with, elephants either, so humans step in to fill the void. Dogs. Sometimes it feels like we're having enemies galore. Everyone wants a piece of us. Humans treat us badly. Cars really have it in for us. Even when we get eaten by coyotes, which is kind of like having your cousin invite you over for dinner and then informing you that you are the main course. Although I probably would just be an appetizer. Anyway, after all those 27 years stuck in a mall, Ivan is one of those glass half full kind of guys when it comes to the walls surrounding him. Glad to be with others of his kind, cared for by smart and loving humans. I'm more of a water bowl of power, half empty kind of guy. Every time I leave Ivan and Ruby, I'm painfully aware that I can leave. Ivan's address is Gorilla World, and Ruby's address is Elephant Odyssey. And me, I guess my address is the same as Julia's and George and Sarah's, 149 Hinman Avenue. I mean, of course it is. I've been living there a whole year now. It is. And yet sometimes I still wake up at night and think, gotta find shelter, gotta find safety, gotta find somewhere where I belong. I guess I don't want to get too comfortable. Gift. Once I'm in my spot, I don't have to do a thing because Ivan and Ruby always know when I'm there. Gorillas and elephants have great snouzes too. I also pride myself on staying extra fragrant. It's a gift. And this is the last one I'm going to be reading today, and it's called Ivan. Ivan gets to me first. Bob, he knuckle runs actually, and he looks as glad to see me as I am to see him. It seems like I've known Ivan forever, and yet every single time I see him, I kind of feel awkward. Oh, odd. He's so powerful, so huge, like a magnificent silver mountain that just happens to be my best buddy. Hey, Ivan, Julia calls, waving. He cocks his head to the side and makes a soft belch, which is gorilla for I'm happy. Maya calls out to Julia from the door to the gorilla's indoor space. Maya's a zoologist, which is hoity-toity way of saying she has something for an animal. It was Maya and a whole lot of other good folks who helped get Ivan and the rest of the mall animals moved to a better place. Julia unhooks my string and gives me a stern look. No funny business, you, she says, and then she kisses me on the head. And stay out of sight. Ivan sidles up as close to the stone wall as he can get. I was worried you wouldn't want to come today, he says, weather and all. Another hurricane, I say. It's freaking everybody out. Above me, magnolia branches sway. Leaves rustle and shiver, and even the trees seem uneasy. What's new? Ivan asks. He lies back on the grass and wiggles contently, scratching an itch, no doubt. Not much. I had a weird dream last night, I pause. And you were in it. And me, and Ruby, and Stella too. Ivan gazes at the darkness of the sky. Stella, he says. Now there was a great friend, the classiest elephant you'll ever hope to meet. The best, I agree. I miss the old gal. We fall silent. All good with you? I ask after a moment. No point in dwelling on sad stuff or bad dreams. Kiana's getting on my nerves a bit. Ivan, do this. Ivan, do that. But she means well. Kiana is Ivan's lady friend, girlfriend. I've never been sure what to call it in gorilla. Kiani doesn't really approve of me. She thinks I'm a bad influence on Ivan. I like to think she's right. Ivan is 400 pounds of pure power, but Kiani is only 400 times scarier. Trust me, I've seen her in a bad mood, and I've seen her teeth. They make mine look like toothpicks. Ivan and Kiani don't have kids, but there's a bunch of baby and juvenile gorillas hanging around. They call him Uncle Ivan, and he puts up with all their antics. Ivan has always been a good sport. If I had a gorilla toddler hanging all over me, I'd be tempted to use my toothpick teeth. All right, we're going to stop there at page 111. Today, you are going to write 3 main events, and this time the slide is perfect. Nobody's messed it up and deleted it. So you're going to write 3 events that happened in the story that I just read, stretch those sentences, and make them really, really big. I don't want simple sentences, okay? You got this.